starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
Off we go on a Monday. It is the Vegas Take coming your way live, 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN here in Las Vegas. JD as well as Brian Shapiro out today. My name is Chris Winn, guest hosting, and what always becomes, because it is the start of the week, it becomes a very packed show, as it should be, right? Because we have the weekend to talk about, as well as anything that went down over Friday night that we didn't get a chance to discuss after the show last week. So much going down in the world of sports here in Las Vegas. Of course, it is March Madness, so we have college basketball tournaments in full swing all over the city, whether it's at Orleans Arena, whether it's the MGM Grand Garden, of course, T-Mobile Arena, as well as the Thomas and Mack. The Mountain West season is over for UNLV. Their next game is a matchup with the Aztecs of San Diego State. So we'll be covering that next week as they take on San Diego State and in what hopes to be, for UNLV fans here in Vegas, a run through the Mountain West tournament. We, of course, have a ton of news out of Washington, D.C. over the weekend. We had President Trump had an opportunity to go down to the South. He met with victims and families of the tornado disaster in Alabama. And as well as he had a chance to spend some time at Mar-a-Lago, where there were some comments made there, allegedly, that made some news. So we'll get into that as well, too. But we had the first White House press briefing today in 6 weeks. And it appeared to signal a development in the president's thinking regarding pardoning Paul Manafort. Now, of course, there's been stories throughout the last week or two regarding pardons, whether it's Paul Manafort, whether it's Michael Flynn, obviously Michael Cohen in the news, and also the discussions of whether or not there were, quote-unquote, discussions between Michael Cohen and the president when it came to pardons. So we'll talk about what Sarah Huckabee Sanders had to say again today, as well as some other developments that went down in that press briefing. It's kind of wild. 6 weeks they haven't had a press briefing in Washington, D.C. I mean, these things, whether it was the Bush administration or the Obama administration going back to the Clinton administration, it seemed like these things were, 2-3 times a week. But, the first time in a long time. So we'll get into that as well. We want to take your phone calls. 702-257-5396 is the phone number. Your thoughts, your perspective, your insight, and an opportunity to kind of get a banter back and forth. Because as many of you know, many of the listeners of the Vegas Take, I am on here frequently, normally every Monday, but I also tend to pop in other days of the week when there's, certain big stories going on or there's something that there's good to chop it up over. I'm not afraid to jump on. So myself, I'm here along with Johnny. We'll take care of you here for the next couple of hours and get things rolling. Once again, 702-257-5396 is the phone number. So the first official White House press briefing, was today in 6 weeks. And the discussion of pardons came up. And obviously, Paul Manafort is someone that was a part of Donald Trump's campaign. He was the campaign CEO, right? He's running it for an important part. I believe it was right up to the convention, right? Right up to the process of him being nominated as the GOP's choice. And the comments today from Sarah Huckabee Sanders were that the White House, Trump has previously floated the possibility of issuing the presidential pardons to Manafort and other associates, for that matter. But, just days ago, apparently the president told reporters outside the White House he had not discussed pardoning Manafort, who was convicted last year on tax and bank fraud charges lodged by Mueller and is set to receive his final prison sentence this week. His direct quote actually was, "I didn't even discuss it. The only one discussing it is you," talking about the media. And Trump said this on Friday. And The president also has often criticized, obviously, Mueller's probe of the Russian meddling and possible Trump campaign collusion in the 2016 election, calling it illegal, calling it a witch hunt. He's not afraid to bash it, basically. So the question I have for you out there, callers, and those of you who are Trump supporters or may not be Trump supporters, is do you think he should? Do you think he should pardon Paul Manafort? Do you think that should go down? Do you think he should pardon Michael Flynn? And of course, we're going to get into it's going to naturally lead into Michael Cohen, because there's the controversy that's gone on in the last few days regarding the possibility of a discussion between President Trump and Michael Cohen, and whether or not, there was anything offered from obviously President Trump's standpoint in regards to Michael Cohen. And so we're going to have, of course, get into that. This whole thing with Paul Manafort, though, I think we need to take a step back and understand what he was charged with, all right? Because you can get into the presidential pardons, whether they're right or not, look, it's a power that the president is given, and they take advantage of it. There's no question about it. Every president has pardoned individuals, and there's a story for each one of those cases, right? Each one there's either a reasoning behind it, there's a rationale as to why this person is given a pardon. But what's unique about President Trump and these individuals who may or may not be seeking pardons is that these individuals are directly tied to the president. Like these, and no, Paul Manafort, some of the crimes that he's charged with have nothing to do with President Trump. Yes, that's just true. But these individuals have either worked for or with the president or at the desire of the president extremely recently. And they worked in a capacity where they were trying to get him elected, to the office that he now is sitting in. He's in the White House now because of a lot of people. It's not just because of Trump. There's a lot of people that helped Donald Trump get into the White House, and there's a lot of Americans that are happy, and that obviously the president won the election because he won the Electoral College, and there's a lot of people in America that want Donald Trump president. So, but Paul Manafort, I mean, if you just think about these charges that he has not been just accused of, that he's not just been indicted on, he has been convicted of. And it's pretty remarkable, because the debate started out, and has been, and fairly recently, obviously since his sentencing by the judge in the last case last week, which a number of people on both sides of the aisle, whatever your ideology is, whether you're Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter. A lot of people are saying, come on, he got off light. He got off with a slap on the wrist. The sentencing guidelines were 19 and a half to 24 years. He ends up getting 4, which is going to turn into 3+ because of time served. He's served 9 months. So, so that aside, though, the reason why people are upset about it is because there's this impression that, hey, there's people out there that are less privileged. There's defendants out there that don't have the means that Paul Manafort has, and they have done things that are much less egregious, and they've ended up serving, much harsher sentences. And this disparity is very real, and it's a lesson that needs to be learned. So for me, I'm completely on board with it. I get it. I understand. Look, I'm not somebody that, I'm not someone who is looking for Paul Manafort to be tarred and feathered. Okay, I'm not someone who's who's the boogeyman who's just out to get him. But it was an absolutely slap on the wrist when it came to those charges, and I mean, look, you're talking about filing false tax returns, which is, just you're the average Joe out there, or the average Jane. You file a false tax return. It's a felony, okay? If you file one, and it's punishable by up to 3 years in prison. Paul Manafort was convicted of doing that 5 times. That's one charge, by the way. He also willfully failed to report foreign bank accounts which is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison. Manafort was convicted of one count of that. He was convicted also of bank fraud, which is a felony punishable up to 30 years in prison. And Manafort was convicted of 2 counts of that. You can start to see, right, how the punishment recommended by federal sentencing guidelines, which take into account actions such as Manafort's role in the offense, his prior criminal record, the amount of money involved. Most when I talk about average Joe and average Jane, we're talking about people that make, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 a year. With Paul Manafort, we're talking about millions of dollars, okay, that the U.S. government was defrauded. We're talking about, this isn't just small-time crime, all right? And Judge Ellis, who was the one that sentenced him, described Manafort's tax evasion as a theft of money from everyone who pays taxes. That's what Judge Ellis said, and yet he still turns around and says, nevertheless, I deem the recommended sentencing range excessive in light of the penalties received by the defendant. Certain case. He talked about how he's lived I don't know the exact phrasing again. I believe it was it was along the lines of everything else he's done in his life he's been a good guy the rest of his life, except for just these isolated incidents. Okay. Now, that to me is hilarious. Now, Manafort, who's, by the way, 69 years old, he will soon be sentenced in a separate case to which he pleaded guilty this week. He's going to be sentenced this week to witness tampering and conspiracy against the United States government involving tax fraud, money laundering, as well as failure to report foreign bank accounts. Failure to register as a foreign agent and lying to the Justice Department. Recommended ranges in those cases involve some of the same underlying conduct as the case that was already been sent. It's nearly 16 to almost 20 years. The statutory maximum for those counts is 5 years each, meaning his sentence could be as long as 10 additional years that he could be facing here. And the judge that Judge Jackson is going to be one that's going to be sentencing him. Now, there's been a lot of discussion, particularly about people who are not proponents of Trump this week, that they got to do the right thing. That they got to make sure that it's not only that he gets close to 10 years, but that it has to be something that's connected on to the remaining 3 years he has in his sentence. So, a lot of Americans out there that think the only way justice will be served is if he's serving over 10 years in prison. And at 69, that would put him at almost 80 years old, which would be horrible for Paul Manafort. So, 702-257-5396 is the phone line. I want to talk to you about this. I want you to get your opinion as to what you think. Paul Manafort, does he deserve a pardon? Michael Flynn, storied military career. Is he someone that deserves a pardon? And, of course, Michael Cohen. I would expect that a lot of you out there, the listeners out there, wouldn't think Michael Cohen deserves one because there's been a lot of Michael Cohen blasting here the last few weeks after, obviously, the very damaging public accounts that Michael Cohen has made, not only the House of Representatives, but also just in the media, period. So, 702-257-5396 is the phone line. And yes, let's jump on the phone lines. Joined now by a Las Vegas resident and actually someone who I am extremely happy to have on the line here because he is wired in, he is informed, and he's also someone who is like myself has been a host here in Las Vegas and is extremely prepared to talk about these issues. Pat Cassell joining us here on the phone lines. Pat, I appreciate the time. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing really well. As I was driving home, I saw the Facebook. I'm like, I gotta support my buddy.
Yes, sir.
And I'm listening to this conversation, and I'm like, I will be a son of a gun. As far as Flynn's concerned, which there's no question he should be pardoned because based on all the evidence, he was pretty much railroaded. As far as Cohen's concerned, his biggest concern will be another perjury case going against him, which may give him even more time. Manafort. Now, I think 47 months was fair, and here's why. If you look at the bank fraud, basically he was a little overzealous in his figures on trying to get a loan. If everybody I know buying a house or whatever didn't spell things out a little bit, just didn't stretch the truth, some of these people wouldn't qualify for loans. So that doesn't make me real concerned. What interests me, though, is his partnership with the Podesta brothers for years. See, the Podesta brothers aren't being brought up on any charges, and the truth be told, when they went after Manafort, they didn't go after him for what they arrested him for and they busted him for. They went after him supposedly for Russian collusion. And like anything, they want to save face. They want to make sure they put him away. Now, we'll see what happens with this other sentencing, but I don't think the 47 months was that big a deal. Was that a bad of a deal? I think it's a fair deal, considering we're talking about essentially tax evasion, which is pretty common. And 47 months is 47 months, especially at his age, could be a death sentence.
Well, I don't. You say it's pretty common. I mean, look, the numbers here are staggering when you're talking about Paul Manafort. I mean, look, I laid it out. The average Joe, if there's any type of tax evasion, right, or if there's any type of crimes that are involved financially, we're talking about thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars. With Paul Manafort, we're talking about millions of dollars, right? And so
remember one thing, Chris.
Yes.
But think about this though. It is a white-collar crime. He never hurt anybody. He's never been arrested before. I mean, that's the reason why he might have got a little more leniency. Like if he was a habitual criminal, different story. Now I will tell you, that's where I think he got hit hard. Mm-hmm. I mean, and the only reason he got nailed, because they could have went after him years before and never did, was because of the fact that he was associated with Donald Trump. That's the sad part. That's where Trump feels guilty. As far as, Flynn, the truth be told is they lied to him. They pretty much put him in a jackpot, and they basically held his kids over his head, and he ended up swearing that he did something he didn't do, which has later come out. But 47 months for this specifically for this first-time offense is fair. Now, you bring up the other topic where he already pled guilty for something else. The question is, will he get additional time to the 47 months? If he does, well, then the conversation's moot, and he gets, I would say, justice for those in the masses.
So, so also, I want to get your take on Michael Cohen as well, because the whole pardon thing, right, in the last, few days, discussion about who said what and if anybody's lying or not, it's kind of a moot point, right, Pat? Because, look, when it comes to federal charges, there's no question the president will have the ability, and he could pardon Michael Cohen. Now, all indications, right, are that Michael Cohen's not going to get a pardon because of the way that President Trump and the way that the Trump administration has approached everything with respect to Michael Cohen the past 6 to 12 months. Like he's no longer in the good graces of the president. A lot of what he said last week was very damaging to the president. So the thought is that President Trump won't go down that road. But with respect to Cohen, it's different, right? Because you have the Southern District of New York involved, and that is something that the president can't touch. Like even if Donald Trump wanted to pardon him, he couldn't pardon him. So do you think that kind of comes into play as to whether or not the president will actually pardon Michael Cohen?
There's no chance Michael Cohen can get pardoned, but I got to be honest with you. Knowing a little bit more about law enforcement than I want to admit in my lifetime, knowing people from various positions, Michael Cohen copped a plea because he was in serious trouble.
Right.
I mean, Michael Cohen was facing serious time. Michael Cohen did a lot of things stupidly. And so what he did, and, now that there's 12 hours of collusion with Adam Schiff, that's a whole other ballgame. But the truth be told is this is a man who's just basically going to survival mode and basically said what he had to say just to try to cop a plea. He's only going to get 4 years. So the reality is he's facing serious time, and he's facing a lot of issues. And I think the problem that Cohen had was he tried to avoid going to jail. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think you're going to see much of whatever he said would be incredible. I mean, if he lied, if he gets nailed for last week or the last 3 times he spoke for perjuring himself again, his credibility is totally shot, and his word means nothing. And yet they still got to make – I mean, he really put himself in a jackpot, and I wouldn't be surprised if he gets an additional 3 to 5 years thrown on top of it. I mean, you can't lie. You lie once to the Senate, it's one thing, but to do it again, that's going to get ugly.
Well, here's the thing, though, with Michael Cohen, all right, and with any of these people who have lied before in the past, or we think of them as scumbags, right? We're like, these guys, you don't know if they're telling the truth or not. You don't know. You can't believe one word that comes out of their mouth because they've lied in the past. With these people, whether it's Michael Cohen, whether it's President Trump in certain cases, it's not even about what they say. It's about what you can corroborate, right? It's about talking to other individuals. So say, other people that are involved. And that's how things get decided. That's how we find out what really happened. Michael Cohen is not. It's not going to be about just him. We're not just going to be taking Michael Cohen's word on any of this stuff. It's going to be. There's going to be documents that are involved, right? There was the raid, of course, on his offices for the Southern District of New York.
Let me hold that thought.
You understand what I'm saying, right? You understand the point I'm trying to make.
You're saying. So let's think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So the reality is that they're going after the president over potentially spending $250,000, give or take $50,000, to silence 2 women. One girl he had a legitimate affair with, and one was a one-hit wonder.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right now in New York City, Mayor de Blasio and his wife are missing $980 million. They missed, or excuse me, $850 million was misplaced.
Right.
What? If you really look at it, what's more impacting? Somebody writing out a check out of their own personal account for $250,000, or a mayor and his wife missing $850 million tax dollars?
They're both. Hey, if he did something wrong, he did something against the law. Hey, it's go after him. We can walk in. Pat, we can. New
York's not going after him. The Blasio, you know the sad part about this?
Yeah.
Politics has become such a scumbag business that these people. I mean, you look at what they're doing and how they're doing it, Chris. You got to say to yourself, how is it possible that the average Joe goes to work every day, and if they spit on the curb, they end up getting a fine? Or these people get a slap on the wrist. I mean, we're witnessing some of the ugliest, dumbest things I have ever seen in my lifetime right now on the television, on the boob tube.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty scary.
But the thing is, though, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, Pat. We don't have to, you can say, you can say that, this person's doing something wrong over here, and we can handle that. And then also this person over here is doing something, we can handle that. It's it's not mutually exclusive. We don't have to just focus on one thing or focus on the other.
Somebody you had sex with, just keep that under. I mean, first of all, who really cares? Nobody. The truth be told is, at the end of the day, nobody gives a rat's behind about the sexual encounters. The bottom line is, you're looking. That's really what this is all about.
Yeah.
They're trying to tie Trump in, saying he committed an FEC violation, which is going to turn out to be false because he used his own money. But that's neither here nor there. I mean, let's.
Hey, Pat, can I keep you over until after the break here, and we can keep this going?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll take a quick. Yeah, we got to take a quick break. We got a hard break going on here. It is the Vegas Take coming your way out on Monday. I'm Chris Winn in for Brian Shapiro and JD. 101.5 FM, 720 AM. KDWN.